But do you think you would have hit if you had not come to Atlanta?
No, I don't think I would have.
Need a one with, start a new relationship with you.
Let me tell you something. God is good because it happened overnight.
Literally?
I promise you. I promise you.
I can't hold on. I can't do this without my mother. Where my mother at?
Usher was sent to live with Diddy when he was 13 by L.A. Reid.
I knew that it was a different atmosphere that he was gonna be.
I think it was more or less about what Puff wanted me to do more than what it is that I needed to do. I guess there were a lot of times he didn't challenge things that maybe he would have challenged because he was young.
We're sending you
New
over
York
to
City.
something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp?
Yeah,
Flavor
that's what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
And he was doing what people wanted him to do. You know, he was singing the way people wanted him to sing. He was acting the way people wanted him to act.
To actually wrestle off of the frosted plate.
You know, Usher,
I want to make my name mean something.
let it burn, let it burn, let it burn. Well, according...
It's given to me to make a difference, to usher in something. So that's what I'll do.
According to a man. Oh, yes. Oh, where have you been?
For years, this foreign-born A-list singer has refused to discuss what happened when he was younger under the tutelage of the one-named singer.
Like, I really admire R. Kelly. I really love his style.
A federal grand jury has indicted Kelly on 13 counts, including child.
According to a man, Usher, he's saying that Usher gave him herpes.
And I'm like, man, you know, there's a couple people she listens to. Usher, Dr. Oz, like when y'all say it, it's like, okay, cool.
Consider it like, I guess, marriage therapeutic. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm making it easier, you know, in the conversation. And if y'all not married, I mean...
Can you make a song called In Your Butt?
You know, without that artist development of Aristilla Face Records, I wouldn't be the mentor that I am today.
Hello everybody. Hello everybody. Hello everybody. Welcome to BJ Investigates. No, wait, hold on. Welcome to BJ Investigates, a show I just created and might never do again. In last week's episode, we started going down the twisting, turning, winding web of, I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know what to call this thing, but it pretty much defines our childhood. And if you grew up in the United States, all these people somehow, some way ended up touching somebody that you knew something about. And come to find out, might not even been touching in the metaphoric sense, but we'll get to that eventually. Anyway, yeah, so we started off, I guess really technically we kind of started off with the Britney industrial complex because it kind of gives you a little bit of insight into the financial motivations that might have been going on with some of these stars and Britney Spears in particular. Then we kind of ventured into the Backstreet Boys. We talked a little bit about Lou Pearlman, Johnny Wright, his ex-wife Donna, Nick Carter, all that stuff. So make sure to check those out if you haven't so far. But if you don't want to, you can just watch this one. Well, I saw a comment the other day. First. I saw a comment the other day and someone was asking me to put all the Britney videos in order, like put these videos in order on a playlist. And I mean, I guess I could do that, but they're really designed for you to just sit down and start watching one. But that's kind of where we are in the universe right now at the time of the making of this video. So, I mean, really, I guess you could trace it all the way back to the P. Diddy video that we did make, because that's when I started to realize, like, okay, it's just undeniable. All these people are related. All these people are crossing over. They're leaving one record label to go to another one. One of them aged out of his own record label he founded. Did you know that? So if this is wrong, I'll double check this when you take this part out of the video. But Clive Davis was the founder of Arista Records, and he got removed from his own company, and then they installed in his place, I believe it was either L.A. Reid or Barry Weiss. I don't remember which one it was, but like they're all the same. And it was because they had a rule that the CEO couldn't be above a certain age, but it was like the company he founded. It was very weird to me. Anyway, all that to say, today we're going to talk about Usher.
Look, everybody, it's Usher in the library.
Hey, how y'all doing? Y'all
The man, the myth, the legend. And I mean, listen, I don't think if you were alive in 2004 to 2000, like 2002 to 2006 in the United States, that you could have even escaped Usher. He was monumental, iconic, megalithic, and all of that. But I started venturing way back into the early 90s, and there's some stuff that I found that I have never heard, I did not know, and it kind of gives you a little bit of insight into what could have really been going on at the beginnings of Usher's career. Not only that, I'm starting to notice, and it all started probably 3 years ago, I started to notice it, but it's starting to become undeniable that this child to very famous A-list celebrity model is kind of exactly the same formula for almost everybody that ended up being really enormous and really huge, and we'll get into that as we go along through these videos. But in today's video, I just really want to kind of go back into the early days of Usher's career and look into some of the things that maybe you didn't know. Usher Raymond IV was born on October 14th, 1978, to parents Janetta Patton and Usher Raymond III. Usher's relationship with his dad was basically non-existent because the dad unfortunately struggled with substance use and addiction throughout his life, so he didn't really spend any time around Usher as a kid. Usher grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where he attended a church where his mother was the choir director.
Growing up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, there wasn't a lot of different ways to really explore yourself, and then a lot of options of life.
At a young age, Usher wanted to be a preacher, but that would all change by the time he was 12 years old. Some sources credit his grandmother to discovering his singing talent, but Usher himself credits his mom.
Was your grandma discovered you as a singer, would you say, or not?
No, actually my mother.
Your mother?
Was the first person who gave me an opportunity to sing outside.
Was that?
We should turn that phone off, don't you think? Yeah, we should hold all calls maybe. It'd be helpful.
Who again was the choir director at the church.
So it was your mother who discovered your voice, was it?
Yep. I think
That
it
would
was.
be a natural thing, I suppose, wouldn't it? Being your mother.
Yeah. Well, my mother was a youth director of a choir that she conducted at our church. My mother actually sang in the choir. I mean, of course, I sang every song that was on the radio, and I'd sing with my friends, but I never knew it as a career or something that I would really want to work at, to potentially make it a job or, you know, a passion of mine.
Amazing, really, sings. It's been your career since you were, what, 15?
Well, 13, actually.
13?
Yep.
But it wasn't until he joined a youth group that came to perform at his school. That's when I realized that he had talent.
Usher was serious about school. He really was. He was a good student. He was helpful. He had a lot of friends. I'll tell you a little secret about Usher that I shouldn't tell. Instead of reading, Usher could sing the words to it. Do you remember our reading group?
Yes.
And he could sing. And then we would get into it and we would start singing with Usher.
So at some point when Usher was like 10 or 11 years old, this singing group came to his school, and the group was called New Beginning. The group was composed of 4 young men, and they would sing and dance and perform for local high schools, and their message and their mission was to kind of keep kids off drugs and basically tell kids that you don't really have to be doing all that criminal stuff to be cool or whatever. Well, Usher really wants to join this group, and he basically begs his mom to join, and finally he does audition and he joins the group.
This is a photograph of your first band. I believe this is from 1993, and the name of the band?
New Beginning.
New Beginning. Were these like your neighborhood friends, or was this like a band of...
So we were like an anti-youth drug group. Like we would go out and we would go to schools and we would tumble and we would do positive things. There's just so many negative things in our world.
What was the first time you heard yourself on the radio? Was it from this?
The first time I ever heard myself on the radio, yes, I was in the group. And I think I was in the car with my mother. And I didn't believe it, but I heard myself on the radio and I'm like, oh my God, I made it, you know?
Yeah, that's so exciting. I mean, have you ever reached a level of excitement that equals that?
The first time is like no other. I mean, in
1991, Usher did record 10 songs with the group New Beginning, and it was released only locally by mail or something, but eventually once Usher did become super famous, like by 2002, they did re-release that album, and you can get it today.
I was in a group for a very short amount of time. This was an anti-youth drug group. It was an anti-youth drug group in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is where I'm from.
Usher's mom, Janetta, did tell this story about Usher meeting New Beginning at his school, and she said he met this group and he was very persistent that he wanted to be in the group.
He met this group, and he was very persistent. You know, he really wanted to sing in this group. So I said, okay, that's fine. I'll let you participate.
Janetta, Usher's mom, who would ultimately end up being his manager / momager of sorts, she actually said it wasn't until Usher joined this group and started performing that she realized how much talent Usher really did have.
That's when I really realized that this kid right here is truly talented.
Yeah. So she was like training you? How did that work out?
Well, you know, my mother.
Like, do your push-ups, Usher. Come on, do it.
No. My mother, she can't get on you. My mother will, you know, really rag on you if you, you know, a puny man walking around feeling sorry for me. I'm not gonna feel sorry for you. You need to go ahead and work out. Do your thing. You know, have you done your vocal lessons for today? So she's been somewhat of a coach, a mother, a friend.
Yeah.
You know, best friend, all of that, you know, in a bar. But I enjoy having my mother as my manager simply because, you know, I mean, who more can you trust than, you know, your own blood?
And that's about the time that Janetta decided that she wanted to move the family from Chattanooga, Tennessee to Atlanta, Georgia.
I moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that's where I live now with my mother and my father and my younger brother.
But why in Tennessee?
Well,
it's not like the center of entertainment USA, right?
No, that's why I moved to Atlanta.
I knew that he had a talent. Atlanta was just an hour and a half away.
And she knew that here in Atlanta, there was more opportunity than in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And all you had to do was tap into the right mix.
We moved the family to Atlanta.
But Usher did not want to leave his hometown, and he did not want to leave his new band that he was in.
I decided to pull him out of the group. We are here in Atlanta. There are bigger opportunities here. Which he told me, you have destroyed my life. You have destroyed my world. And can you imagine how heartbroken I was? Because I knew it was not a good situation for him. I knew that.
And Janetta is pretty consistent on this story as she tells it in interviews, and Usher's pretty consistent on it too. But when I was researching for this video, I found a different version of the story. And I don't know if it's necessarily exactly a completely different version of the story, but it certainly has some details that Janetta and Usher left out. And it comes from one of those band members who was actually in New Beginning with Usher.
Anthony Bird was a part of the child sensation group called the New Beginning. Let's go back to those days, man. How did the group form, man?
Daryl Wheeler was out there. I was also in the group called Flippo Mars. Daryl found me in that group and seen the talent that I had, and he formed a group called the Happy Clowns, man. And we used to dress up in clown suits and tell kids to just say no to drugs all around the projects, all at the schools, all over the world. And we met a guy named Sylvester Burton. And he said, man, you need to get them kids out of them clown suits and put them in some nice clothes, man. Make them like New Edition. They'll make $1 million. He took us out the clown suits and the makeup, but kept us singing positive music. We used to stand on the street corners and sell those tapes and CDs, man. We ended up signing a record deal out of Fort Lauderdale with a company called Foresight Records. It took out like our life changed, man. We ended up putting the album out.
So New Beginning charted on Billboard?
Yeah. And so Usher's mama at the time said, you know, hey, I want my son to be the lead singer of the group. Usher can't be Adrian singing. Usher, I tell him to his face, and he know that.
And Adrian and I, we were the lead singers in the green
Which
shirt.
one's Adrian?
Right there in the green shirt. And we were the lead singers.
Okay.
And so, but his mom wasn't having it. His mom was like, I want Usher out front. If you notice the picture, let me grab a picture right quick, okay?
This is classic shit y'all getting right here, y'all. This is shit that I didn't even know. You feel me?
This picture right here, that's the group.
Right.
That's in the purple. That's Usher in the white.
Right.
When his mother bought him that white shirt on purpose, she was supposed to get him a yellow shirt.
Okay.
But she wanted him to stand out, so she bought him that white shirt.
Okay.
And that's why it looked like that on this picture. His mom wasn't having it. She ended up moving to Atlanta and kept pressuring Daryl to make him be out front. And Daryl was like, nah, they all sing together. They a group. They gonna stay together. So she used to take our songs. She worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield in Atlanta. Babyface record label was at the top of Blue Cross Blue Shield. He owned the whole top floor. She would give the music to the janitor and have him take it up there. And one day, the record exec that said, I want to meet Miss Patton and bring us music and Usher up there. They listened to our music and he was like, man, where this group at? Babyface fell in love with it. And his mom and them told him that, you know, we weren't together no more. The group
were y'all together at the time, or she just said that?
No, we were still together. She just told me we wasn't together no more, but my son's still singing. And so she took Usher up there, and Usher was singing for him, and they fell in love with him, and they signed him to a deal.
And that part right there is a major discrepancy. On Usher's Wikipedia page and on all these different places, it is very clear that the story that's presented to the public is that Usher was signed only after going on talent shows and things like that. I'll get into what that public story is. We are going to talk about it in just literally a few seconds. But in the meantime, I do just want to point out here, Anthony Bird said the way that Usher got signed was that Usher's mother worked in the same building as Babyface's record label.
So I moved to Atlanta. My mother, she began to showcase me, in different talent shows. And, I was recognized, luckily by someone, who was an executive at a record company.
Yeah.
So they introduced me to LA Babyface. And, I sang for them and they sort of let me.
Like, we want you. Like that.
Something like that. Or more or less like, can you handle this? Do you really want to do this?
Well, would it come as a surprise to you to know that Babyface's record label was none other than LaFace Records? And LaFace Records was a joint venture started by L.A. Reid and Arista Records and Babyface. So this is the first version of the story that you're going to hear in this video, but I do want to give you a heads up and a warning that it is not the only version you're going to hear.
And a whole lot of other things happened, from him running away from home, from fights and, tears and crying.
Apparently he was crying every day, and he even tried to run away from home to avoid moving to Atlanta. He accused his mother of destroying his life and trying to take his dreams away. In any event, the family did end up moving to Atlanta, and by the family, I mean Janetta, Usher, Usher's stepdad, and Usher's half-brother. And once they moved to Atlanta, that's whenever Janetta started to enter Usher into local talent competitions, and this is where it starts to sound very familiar to not only Britney Spears, but also to the Backstreet Boys. And like I already said, Usher did tell his mom that she, quote, destroyed his life.
And so I began to enter him into competitions after I pulled him out of that group, which he told me, you have destroyed my life. You have destroyed my world. And can you imagine how heartbroken I was? Because I knew it was not a good situation for him. I knew that.
When you pulled him out of that group, how long was it before Usher was able to know and you were able to know in your heart that as a mom you made the right decision?
Let me tell you something. God is good, because it happened overnight.
Literally?
I promise you. In 3 months' time, from the time I took him out that group to the time that he signed his deal, he was on Star Search and had a record deal.
That's amazing.
So when Usher was 12 or 13 years old, he meets Bobby Brown's bodyguard, a man by the name of A.J. Alexander, at a local talent show in Atlanta, one that his mom had put him in.
The one place where you get an audience or an immediate reaction, whether you're good at it or you're bad at it, is at the talent show. The Holiday Inn that we're getting ready to go to is the place where the audition was held for the Atlanta Talent Search. That was like the big break. That was the talent show that offered me my big break. And I met AJ there.
What's up with the police escort? I got warrants, man.
So it's a place, dog, where it started.
This little detail also brings up yet again how it's important that there's two different versions of this story we're working with.
AJ really believed in Usher from the first day that we did the audition for the competition. It was AJ.
It was this room right here. And when you started singing, it's like you went from 13 to 23. I was like, yo, this dude is a superstar. I saw it that quick.
We can't go in there right now, but this is actually the room where I was discovered. And AJ met me. I was performing on this stage right here. Who would have ever thought that way out here in the middle of Decatur at the Holiday Inn, I would meet the guy who would introduce me to the record company that actually put together my first album and believed in me enough to record an album with.
People used to make fun of him. I used to make him sing on the spot. It was like, sing this. Everybody said, sing. And it was sing everywhere. And I used to get mad because even major producers, remember I had you sing for Dallas Austin
and 112, man.
Because on the one hand, the official story from Usher and his mother, Janetta, is Janetta pulled Usher out of this band, starts putting him in these local talent competitions in Atlanta. One thing leads to another. In a very rapid amount of time, Usher meets A.J. Alexander, who happens to also be Bobby Brown's bodyguard. On the other hand, one of Usher's New Beginning bandmates said that Usher's mom was two-timing and scheming against them behind their backs, and basically shopping Usher around as a solo act. In his version of the story, Janetta is passing off, little New Beginnings tapes to the janitor of the Babyface's records, which is LaFace Records, which is where Usher did end up getting signed for his first album. But Babyface himself has produced music for Bobby Brown. So at this point, I do start to wonder, Are these record companies sending, bodyguards and random people out to these local talent shows just to scout for talent? Or is this whole meeting Bobby Brown's bodyguard thing just a cover-up for perhaps the true story?
If they exposed to a lot of different people,
you're such and such producer, like, yo, hey, I got this kid, man. This kid can sing. You really gotta check this kid out, man. I mean, this kid is dope, man. Go sing for him. Go sing, man.
and I would go into the all-time famous moves.
And the only one that listened to me was Brian Reed.
Yeah.
Only one. Brian Reed.
Brian Reed. Thank you very much.
I first heard about Usher from my brother, Brian, who was vice president of A&R at LaFace, and he told me that he had saw this young man that he really thought was incredible. And I said, you know what, would you bring him by the office?
Got up there, LA was in the office, and Usher was just like, he could believe me in LA.
Usher performed for me in my office. So I went in and got all the girls in the office and asked them to come in.
So he started singing for the ladies, and it was like, oh, this kid's cute. And there was one lady named Cheryl, one I had to crush on. Just like this, she said, had a nice little dress on. Usher went up to her like that. He started singing, and he kissed her on her knee. Like,
and this guy was 13 years old. So a 13-year-old charming these, 20-year-old women, I was very impressed with it.
And they cut the music off and said, do you want a deal? Would you like to sound my record company?
He got down on one knee and he sang Boyz II Men's End of the Road. He really charmed the girls in my office.
That was my first meeting with Usher, and it was also the day that I signed him.
Things to think about. Now, AJ would take Usher around to perform at more local talent shows, and that's how Usher eventually did land a spot on Star Search.
I went to the Star Search. You're familiar with that, right?
Right, absolutely.
With the Star Search.
And a welcome 14-year-old Usher Raymond.
How could you love me and leave me and never say goodbye?
Star Search did a lot for me professionally. Just to be in front of a camera, in front of millions of people. That was basically the beginning of all of it. I got a lot of calls after that. But beforehand, I had talked to a big LaFace, a rap over at LaFace. He introduced me to L.A. Reid and Babyface. I had a talent show in Atlanta, Georgia. I had won it like 3 times, and he finally said, "Yo, I want you to meet somebody. You wanna, have a record deal?" I said, "Sure, hey, why not?" So
why not? And you were 14 years old, right?
Actually, I was 13.
13.
This happened, yeah.
And a welcome 14-year-old Usher Raymond.
I was 13 and I went over.
Did you feel like that took away from your childhood at all?
No, I was living every day. I mean, I had a mother who was strict. I still had to clean up the house, take the garbage out, and then still, complete an album. Go to school, go to sleep. Do your homework, mop the floor, take the dog out, take the dog for a walk. Don't make me take my pen.
I love your mom.
And there's all kinds of similarities in this formula, this pattern. I don't even know what to call it. We're calling it the web right now, but I really don't know. A lot of these people definitely started their careers on Star Search. And you can go and just look up the Star Search Wikipedia and see all the people who ended up being A-list celebrities and B and C-list celebrities kind of went straight to Star Search. I guess that might have been pretty common at that time, but they were certainly, and by they I mean the record labels, were certainly scouting talent from Star Search. We got Usher, we got Britney Spears, we got the Backstreet Boys, I think Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, Aaliyah. I mean, everybody was going on Star Search.
Well, I will say this, I have been of the opinion that it can be a little misleading, especially for artists who have worked what is called the chitlin circuit. And had to, travel around in a van and go city to city, state to state, day to day, day and night, put the hours in. These shows make it a lot easier. But, those opportunities pave the way. I mean, if you go all the way back to, Berry Gordy, when he had his review, all of the artists traveled on a bus and, they would perform. And that was the way that they kind of build, a catalog and built what is the legacy of Motown.
Now, I tried really hard not to go down an entire side quest rabbit hole on AJ Alexander being Bobby Brown's bodyguard, because in addition to the Whitney Houston connection, there's also this boy band connection, and that's kind of the point of this whole series, is to show y'all the same exact formula that they have applied to all of these child stars along the way. And by along the way, I mean all the way as far back as like the 50s with Motown Records. Again, like I said, I tried really hard not to go down this rabbit hole, but I have to just mention it here. Bobby Brown having his bodyguard at local talent shows to scout local talent is very interesting, and it definitely fits right into this model. Bobby Brown was also in a boy band. Now, was it the same type of boy band like we would conceptualize it today? No, but it was called New Edition, and it was managed for a time by a man named Maurice Starr. And Maurice Starr learned directly from Motown founder Berry Gordy. Now, Berry Gordy, way back in the Motown in the 50s and the 60s, whatever, he trains up this guy named Maurice Starr. Maurice Starr ends up having a talent competition where he discovers a band called New Edition and takes them on as a manager. He ends up getting fired by New Edition for only paying him like $2 a week or something crazy. And Maurice Starr goes on to found and establish another super successful boy band called New Kids on the Block.
With New Kids, I mean, you couldn't go wrong. I mean, we had over 4,000 products out there, different products, and everything was selling.
New Kids sleeping bag, New Kids phone, New Kids dolls, New Kids Walkman, New Kids puzzles, New Kids tapes, New Kids books, New Kids videos.
Everything was selling, everything. So you couldn't go wrong. I mean, you could say a sock, a pencil with a piece of dirt on it, you know, a towel from underarm deodorant. I mean, anything.
I noticed that the merchandise for New Edition wasn't really selling to white kids, but it was selling to black. So I figured the ultimate would be a teen white act. And that's when I came up with the idea of New Kids on the Block.
Which was basically the blueprint for the Backstreet Boys.
Well, the New Kids on the Block, that's when I took it to the street. You know, I remember the first time I went into a flower shop and I heard this little white kid singing. I said, hey, you want to be in a group and all? I said, I'm, Maurice Starr. He hadn't really heard of New Edition. So, and I said, well, here's my number. If you want to do this, give me a call. I got a call. It wasn't from him. It was from the FBI saying that, why is this big black man giving little white boys his telephone number?
And he co-managed this band with a man named Dick Scott.
Hello, my name is Dick Scott. I've been in the business so long.
Now, Dick Scott learned directly from none other than Motown legend and founder, Berry Gordy. So it goes, Berry Gordy trains up Dick Scott as a Motown executive. Then Dick Scott works with Maurice Starr to co-manage New Kids on the Block. But there was another New Kids on the Block manager named Johnny Wright. He was the tour/road manager with his wife, Donna Wright. Johnny Wright was featured heavily in some of my more recent videos about this topic, the one with P. Diddy and the one with the Backstreet Boys, because he was a major Hollywood manager back in the day, and he still is today. Johnny Wright was the tour manager for New Kids on the Block. He was Britney Spears' manager. He was NSYNC's manager and Justin Timberlake's manager specifically. He was Backstreet Boys' manager. I mean, he was all up in the mix back in the day. So we have a direct line from Berry Gordy, Dick Scott, Maurice Starr, Johnny Wright, and that leads us directly to the Backstreet Boys. And it goes from the boy band Jackson 5 to New Edition, which is supposed to mean New Edition of Jackson 5. New Edition inspires New Kids on the Block. New Kids on the Block inspires Backstreet Boys. And Backstreet Boys is the blueprint for the modern day boy band. Anyway, back to Usher. So we have a 13-year-old Usher, and he is about to go on Star Search. And again, the whole thing was set up by Bobby Brown's bodyguard, A.J. Alexander.
Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe this little kid was doing all the things he was doing, getting in their face, kissing their hands.
People thought he was singing one track. That's how pitch perfect he was.
I was all out in the audience. I was all over the girls. I was a ham.
Well, AJ invites someone else to come and watch a young Usher perform on Star Search, and that someone else is a man by the name of Bryant Reed. And Bryant Reed isn't just some random bodyguard. No. Bryant Reed is actually the brother of one of the biggest, most powerful record executives at the time, L.A. Reid.
How did you get your record deal? Well, that came about through a talent show in Atlanta, Georgia. Mm-hmm. You never believe this, man. I was recognized by L.A. Reid's brother, Brian Reid, who was A&R at the time up at my Face Records. He just called me out of the blue and was like, yo, Usher, I want you to come up there and sing for my brother and Babyface. I was like, nah, you joking. I'm serious. So I came up there, sung for him in the office now. Embrace yourself. I sung for LA, Face, and a couple of employees, and right off after that, you got a record deal. I mean, that sounds real easy with this business.
And something I'm starting to realize is it doesn't actually really matter what label these people work for because they move labels all the time. It's just like lawyers move in big law firms. What really matters is the name behind the label. It don't really matter what the name of the label is. L.A. Reid already had established a pretty strong relationship with Sean Puff Daddy P. Diddy Combs, and that's going to become important in a moment. But we have 13-year-old Usher. He auditions on Star Search. We have L.A. Reid's brother coming to watch him perform on Star Search, and apparently he knocked the socks off of L.A. Reid's brother Bryant. There are clips from this performance, and you can see a young Usher was working it just like a young Backstreet Boy was. But he was in the audience. He was gyrating. He was holding out his hand to the audience. He was hamming it up. And I guess this really impressed not only L.A. Reid's brother, but L.A. Reid himself.
My younger brother, his name is Bryant. He went to a talent show. He says, I saw this kid.
He blew me away with his stage presence, his showmanship.
You have to see him. I was like, okay. Not particularly excited. Okay, bring him by.
He had that intangible, that it factor.
So he auditions for L.A. Reid.
So he brings Usher to my office at 14 years old.
Just by himself or with his parents?
With his mother. Usher comes in and he starts to perform for me. He drops down on one knee and he starts singing this song called End of the Road, a song that Babyface and I had produced for Boys to Men. It was a really big hit. He starts singing the song, and like that, I was like, oh my God. Two things happened. One is a star was born, and two, I really knew what my calling was that day. I was like, now I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to find guys like Usher.
And he gets signed to the label LaFace on the spot.
He was offered a deal on the spot. That was it.
Literally the same day he auditioned, which in my opinion kind of set off alarm bells because that means that Usher's mom probably did not have time to run the contract by any lawyers, which is a little bit exactly the same as the Backstreet Boys.
When the band came to New York to sign their record contract, Denise, who was AJ's mother, wanted an outside lawyer to look at the contract. And Lou says, absolutely not, it's now or never. And so she signed.
Hey, we signed a contract. Let's move forward and let's make a lot of money together and let's make this thing happen.
So once little baby 13-year-old Usher is signed, they put him to work immediately and they let him sing a featured song on the Poetic Justice soundtrack. And looking back at this very first music video, it is clear that Usher was destined for the A-list. The music video featured a tiny little Usher in a suit in the Stanley Moss Courthouse. Probably, alongside a still living Kim Porter, Tupac Shakur, and young Janet Jackson. According to reports, when Usher was first signed to LaFace, he was given Sean Puff Daddy Combs as a mentor? Let me not get ahead of myself. Anyway, okay, so Usher is 13 years old, and that's the time where he was set to record his first album with L.A. Reid's label, LaFace, and he promptly began to lose his voice and struggle with acne because he was going through puberty.
Jan Smith, an Atlanta, Georgia native, has worked with over 3,000 students in 14 years. Her vocal training client list includes multi-platinum Grammy-winning artists such as Rob Thomas, Matchbox 20, Chili of TLC, Jermaine Dupri, L.A. Reid, and many nationally acclaimed recording artists.
When he first came to you, what was he like?
Well, he was in a point of distress at that point, having some problems with his voice, and actually his mother had called her friend Elton John. And Elton was in a studio here in Atlanta working on a project with some friends of mine who are in Collective Soul. And anyway, Janetta asked Elton for a referral, knowing that Elton had vocal problems. And Elton referred her to me. And Elton referred her to me. So she brought her son to me, and we evaluated what was going on with him. I had him see a doctor first, and then we began working on rebuilding his voice so that he could make his high notes and straighten out some of his range.
He lost his voice. Physically or just, puberty? He's growing and he lost his voice. So he lost his range. So the record company felt like, okay, this is not a great investment.
And it was at that time that Usher was threatened to be cut from the label. In an interview that Usher did about 10 years later with the Rolling Stone, he describes how he was feeling at that time. The article says he was confused and angry, and he even punched a wall one night. Usher is quoted as saying, "How can you embrace me and then all of a sudden you don't even want to return my phone calls?" He said, "The night I hit that wall was intense. I took off for 30 minutes, non-stop, 5 in the morning, running. He literally tried to escape. Finally, all out of breath, I thought, you know what? I don't care what they think. I'm gonna win. So he begged L.A. Reid to stay on the label, and he was determined to make it work. And this part's just my opinion, but it is kind of confusing and unexplainable to me that somebody like L.A. Reid, who is already such an established name in the business, would even sign somebody who's like in the 12 to 13-year-old range and not know for a fact that their voice was about to change, but I digress. Anyway, they had a little 13-year-old Usher good and scared, cortisol levels through the roof, threatened him with taking away his spot on the label for something he could not even control, like his voice changing and getting acne.
Album won the hearts of record producers. The Fall from Grace experience set the standard for Janetta Patton on what it would take to keep her son in a competitive position in the record industry.
And he basically didn't have a choice. L.A. Reid presented him with one option to stay on the label, and that involved going to attend a finishing school of sorts known as Puffy Flavor Camp.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp?
Yeah, that's what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's.
And this is where my conspiracy theory comes in. I think this was much more than a mentor. Remember last week's episode about the Backstreet Boys, where a 13-year-old Nick Carter's parents allegedly signed over guardianship rights to a then 18-year-old Brian Littrell? Well, I think that's what's going on here. I mean, think about it. If he's 13 years old and he's getting sent across state lines to live with someone else, wouldn't they have to legally have a guardianship over him? Plus, on top of that, P. Diddy himself has actually said that he was indeed Usher's legal guardian.
You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher.
Who signed to Usher?
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me.
I'm going crazy.
Now, I did try to look up the court documents for that guardianship, and if it was anywhere, it probably would have been in New York. I was not able to get the documents. I would have to FOIA request them, and I just needed to get this video out. Now, this part is really particularly weird to me because P. Diddy, Puff Daddy Combs, was not on LaFace Records. He was not on that record label. He was not signed to it. And in 1994, which I believe is the same exact year that Usher did sign to LaFace Records, that was the same year that Sean P. Diddy, Puff Daddy Combs started his own record company called Bad Boy Records or Bad Boy Entertainment. And that record label is a big deal. Today, there's artists like Machine Gun Kelly or whatever on there, but the notorious B.I.G. Biggie Smalls actually released his debut album with Bad Boy Records, Sean P. Diddy, Puff Daddy Combs. And I mean, I guess we could do a whole video on him. I don't want to get off in the weeds there, but P. Diddy himself was only like 21 years old. So why would a 21-year-old with his own record label be running a flavor camp for a teenage boy in his last straw for another different record label? It's just very weird and unexplainable to me that they would get Usher all worked up, cortisol through the roof. He's talking about punching walls and running and driving and doing all this stuff. And it's over something that's completely predictable. His voice is going to change. He is a young man. That is how it works. So they get him all riled up, all cortisol through the roof, like I said. And then they're like, okay, well, I guess if you want to go to Flavor Camp. And my camp sirens are already going off because in last week's video, we did talk about Lou Pearlman having his finishing school for boys called, what was his called? O-Town, the O-Town camp or whatever. It was basically a camp that he was putting not only the Backstreet Boys through, but also NSYNC, the other bands that he did manage. O-Town, we saw it on Making the Band, and then Lou Pearlman handed off Making the Band to P. Diddy. I don't really know why people are handing stuff off to P. Diddy. I do not know why a teenage Usher would have went across state lines, and then we have him talking about a guardianship. We'll get into all that in a minute. So it's very confusing to me why A.J. Richardson would have scouted this man, then passed him off to L.A. Reid's brother, then L.A. Reid's brother decides to audition him for L.A. Reid, and then L.A. Reid signs him to his record label and then ships him off across state lines to P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Puffy Flavor Camp at 13 years old? Why? Now, in addition to the things that Usher himself has said about this flavor camp and about this time period of his life, his mom has also spoken about this time in interviews, and one was a few years ago. She said she remembers the conversation that she did have with Puffy before she allowed Usher to leave. She said basically it was a business decision, and he looked at her and he told her, you're gonna have to trust me.
And I always say, stay with your kid. I don't care what they say, because they tried to push me out. They didn't want me in. They would actually say, you're too close to the project. No, I'm not. Because remember, Usher went to stay with Puffy. Now that was a business decision right there, because I didn't know Puffy. I didn't know him. So Puffy was there, and I will never forget it. We had this conversation, and he said, "You're going to have to trust me."
And for years, rumors have circulated about this mentorship of sorts. And we're not even going to be able to play all the clips here, but you might have seen Usher in recent years kind of reminiscing on this flavor camp time of his life, and he does not remember it fondly.
Everybody needs a mentor. Who you choose to invest in as that mentor is really up to who you see yourself being. Because as a result of being around that man, Sean Puffy Combs, I don't sleep to this day. I have a problem sleeping to this day. I got it from him.
Jodeci, Mary J. Blige, they didn't know nothing about this shit.
Oh.
I was having a good time, you know what I mean?
Where was Usher's mother while her teenage son was allegedly sharing a bed with a grown man?
With the record company, I'm just not trusting them at all. They still don't want me involved because they feel like mothers are too connected and they cannot separate. I knew how to separate, but with them, I see deception over here, deception over there.
About a decade after this whole flavor camp incident, Usher would describe this period of time in his life as the, quote, hardest days of his life. In a 2004 feature with Rolling Stone, Usher says that he had a bandage on his hand in 1994 when he arrived in New York, where L.A. Reid had sent him to, quote, craft an image and album with Puff Daddy. At 13 years old, he was the youngest of Puff Daddy's bad boy posse, which immediately earned Usher the nickname Baby Huey. And he said he had to grow up really fast, spending time around Puff Daddy in his New York recording studio that was called Daddy's house. It's just weird. Anyway, Usher described the whole lifestyle in New York as highly sexual. He told the interviewer in that 2004 Rolling Stone piece that, quote, Puff introduced me to a totally different set of sex specifically. Sex is so hot in the industry, man. Usher went on to say that he would open a door and be confronted with several people in a room having an good time. He goes on to say, you never knew what was going to happen. And there have been other people who have discussed Usher being around a pretty wild and frankly inappropriate scene for a child.
Ed Lover even once recalled a time when he went to the club and Usher was drinking himself crazy.
And I look to my right and there's a kid standing there drinking champagne.
Oh no.
And I couldn't help but wonder who the hell let their child come into this club, stand in the VIP section, and drink champagne. I mean, guzzling champagne out the bottle.
But as usual, I do not know what took place. I was not there, and I am not making any allegations. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty, in my opinion, so that's all I really wanted to say about that.
Like, I really admire Kelly.
In any event, Usher did eventually put out his first album at the age of 16 years old, and it was co-executive produced by Puff Daddy and L.A. Reid.
I'm so good all the time. I think of you, holding on to someone new. Yeah, don't make me lose my mind. Seems like I've been here before. Baby, I can't take no more of you trying to play me out.
Yo, come on, get up, man.
Now, when that album did originally sort of debut, people did have a little bit of a problem with it. It received a lot of criticism because Usher was only like 14 to 15 years old when he started recording this album, and it dealt with some pretty adult themes.
Let me take off all your clothes. Everything I like to you.
The criticism at the time was it wasn't believable because Usher was so young, and him singing about that stuff, like there's no way he knows what that means and things like that, which I think is a little bit of a strange criticism. It should have been he's too young to know what that means and he's too young to be singing about that, but they were just saying, oh, we don't believe him because he's young.
This time I sort of took a little step on the wild side. I mean, as you know, as far as me being an explicit, artist, that's not me. But actually, I put Lil' Kim on my album, and she has, sort of a little provocative thing going. She's sort of, in the tabloids for being a bad girl.
Right.
So, tell me about this, this little veg you got floating out on the stage. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. We may freak them by the end of the tour. I come out, I'll be on the bottom, he'll be on the top. I mean, that's just another side of me.
But when you're criticized for that, I read where you said it's not a provocative album necessarily or vulgar.
Yeah.
It's just that you're explaining how it is for a young man to be coming of age or to be coming into his manhood.
In a way to come of age. Actually, just something that some of my age goes through. And I mean, it's plenty of people out there who can relate to the same thing. And that's how I write my music. As a writer, that's what Babyface told me. It's best to write what you can relate to. So when you sing,
personal experience,
you can get to it. But as far as it being an explicit album, you know, they have a clean version. So.
You know what? I think when I'm on the stage, am I being a little bit too sexy, a little bit too explicit? I can only be who I am, you know what I mean? I ask that you don't take it wrong. I just really have love, passion for my music.
Which actually turned out to be an incorrect reason to criticize him, because we do know that at the time he was basically surrounded by sex and sexual situations and scenarios, so...
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I mean, but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle,
right?
And I saw it, and it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging.
How I feel? I was so mesmerized. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Just like, can you stay up till 4 a.m. with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
I was just so blown away by the stamina.
And do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem. I had like,
what
like
a
living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old.
In any event, it was a commercial success, and Usher himself in 2004 basically ended up single-handedly saving Arista Records, the one that was run by Clive Davis, because he had ended up being adopted on as like a jive star. It was a whole thing. But the long story short of this section is something y'all already know. Usher had a profoundly successful career, but it didn't take very long before he also started experiencing some personal life issues. He had a series of high-profile relationships,
But I just can't seem to find that one just right for me.
So do you want to go out with me or what?
Yeah. As far as Brandy, I think it's real cute that people think we date.
What's up with that?
If I take a picture with them, they think that we're dating. So I just leave it up to y'all. If you say so.
one with a woman who is 7 years older than him, another famous singer, Chili from TLC.
Dating these days, who's the girlfriend? Rosanda Chili Thomas of TLC. No kidding, TLC. Chili.
Last time you co-hosted with me, Chili called you on the cell phone.
Right.
Do you remember that? In the middle of the show, the cell phone starts ringing. It's Chili, like, what are you doing?
Well, we keep looking at each other.
Co-hosting. Come here. I gotta go.
She's watching right now. How'd you meet Chili? How'd I meet? Well, you know what? Oddly, we were always around each other. I was signed to LaFace Records in Atlanta, Georgia, and we'd always pass each other in
Since
work.
you were kids, right?
Yeah, and I'd always admired her as a child. Every time we would go on a vacation or something like that, when LaFace Records would take us on a vacation, we'd always end up together dancing or something. We got into a spitball fight in the Bahamas.
Real kid stuff.
Yeah, really fun stuff. Yeah. And I never imagined that someone so close to me could mean so much.
Well, so then what's the turning point here, Usher?
Well, I mean...
Now suddenly she's grown up and you took a second...
Well, suddenly I grew up and she took a second.
He ultimately ended up marrying a woman named Tamika Foster.
Anonymity is something that goes out the window when you decide that you want to be an entertainer. And...
Did that part of it take a toll on the marriage?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure it did. For me, to have my life as heavily scrutinized as it is and people to have their opinions, everybody's gonna have...
And he did have children with her as well, but they got divorced and there was a pretty nasty public custody battle that they went through.
The judge refused to change custody, siding once again with the Grammy Award-winning singer, who is still wearing the security bracelet from his son's hospital.
There was also an incident where one of Usher's children almost drowned or something. I don't really know.
What's the address? Emergency. I need the ambulance.
Tamika Raymond sobbed as she listened to the 911 call when their son had his hand caught in a pool drain 8 feet down and was inhaling water.
But all that success was also met with challenges. That's kind of the point.
Remember, there were 3 other people that sued Usher for exposing them to herpes.
You with the kids. I ain't big being there. Come here.
Quantasia Sharpton. There's
Take this trip after my 19th birthday. He never warned me about any STDs.
One such challenge would come in 2010 whenever Usher and his mom had just had so many disagreements over the years professionally that they decided to part ways professionally. Now, she had managed his career as his momager for 17 years. She had managed him, like I said, since he was basically 9 years old. Now, for Usher's side of the story, he says that he just kind of wanted his mom to let him be a man and let him grow up.
You fired her? How do you go about firing your mom?
Well, actually, I didn't fire her. What happened was there was a difference in opinion. In any business relationship there will be. We begin to kind of grow apart in our theory. For the most part, I felt like this would be great for us. And I really want her to be supportive of the man, Usher.
Janetta's side of the story is, she was the person that really made the magic happen. She did her job.
I did my job. People judged me by the way I did my job, but I protected my son and my artists. I knew when to be the mother and I knew when to be the manager. And because I had his back 100%. So, I expected, people to think, oh, she's difficult. No, I'm not really difficult. I'm just doing what's best.
You like being behind the scenes?
I really do. Now, I really do not like being out front. I am the person that makes the magic happen.
But long story short, they do both agree that the parting of ways or the firing had something to do with letting Usher spread his own wings and fly as an adult man beyond just being an artist, but he wanted to venture into other stuff. But as early as 2004, there were inklings of this strained dynamic. In that same 2004 feature for Rolling Stone, the author gave some insight into the types of disagreements that Usher and his mom were having. Even by then, apparently, she had scheduled him for some type of awards show appearance, but he did not want to go. The interviewer describes the confrontation. Usher confronted his mom, Janetta, on the phone while the Rolling Stone interviewer was in the car with them. He said, quote, "You didn't even consult me. I'm not doing it, dog. I'm not going to be a part of your madness. You're playing this like a game and you just lost a round. You're not thinking of what's good for Usher. Strategic moves, deliberate movement. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to talk to you later." And then he hung up the phone. In any event, Usher and his mom, like I said, parted ways about 6 years after that in 2010. And that's when Usher started to transition into a manager himself. It was about a decade into his career, and he started to realize that the real money was in talent management. So he started his own record production company, Us Records. It wasn't until Usher crossed paths with a young Justin Bieber that this whole venture would really take off. So sometime around 2007, 2009, something like that, Scooter Braun discovered Justin Bieber on YouTube.
I'm Justin, nice to meet you.
And he invited Justin into his studio in Atlanta to record some demos. Now at the time, that's also where L.A. Reid was. Now the way they tell the story is that Usher just so happened to be at the studio in Atlanta that day, and Justin was singing an Usher song, just so happened to be singing an Usher song, You Got It Bad, for him in the studio.
And you really know everything used to matter, don't matter no more. Like my money or the cars, you can have it all. And flowers, cars, and candy.
My conspiracy theory is that it was a little bit more coordinated and planned than that, but what do I know?
Here's the beauty. The best pay it forward story of all time. I signed Usher at 14. He brings Justin Bieber to my office. Justin is 14. And I signed Justin also, right?
And Justin, like Usher, it goes without saying how successful the kid was. First, he shows up on Ellen.
So we obviously are, we've been with him the whole way. You couldn't be more adorable. There are some people in the riffraff room that we always, when we have overflow, that don't make it in here. And there's two girls in there that are going crazy. He seems to be, he's
Keyword.
He's young.
You started with young.
Yeah, he's young.
And I think all of us in some way, have humble beginnings that pan out to be incredible, and we hope that, in his transition as not as friends and family who have helped him be who he is, that he'll continue to just mature. But I mean,
And there's a lot of interviews about Usher talking about Justin and things like that.
As my student, now he's breaking his own artist.
Right.
And successfully.
He's got a big challenge ahead, one that you went through. He's got to keep his audience through the decades in order to have that kind of longevity that you experience. He's got the voice change. How does he do it?
But it doesn't seem like Justin's experience with the industry has been particularly better than Usher's.
Do you know Raymond Usher IV? No. Do you know an individual entertainer by the name of Usher?
Yeah, Usher. That sounds familiar.
He's routinely talked about the sacrifices that he's made and how he wishes that he could just go to the store and buy some eggs or whatever.
Like go to Ralph's. You can't do that.
Yeah. People take that for granted. Like, I would love to just go and buy some eggs at Ralph's.
In your pajamas one day.
And whenever Justin's been asked whether he recommends fame at such a young age, he gives an unequivocal, no, I don't.
Do you recommend fame at such a young age for anyone?
I don't. No, honestly, I think it's crucial. I think it can completely destroy a human being, and I got to a point where
did it almost destroy you?
It almost completely destroyed me.
That's understandable.
To a point of like unreturnable.
And you could see her like look at him, grab him, and he's immediately like, no, trying to get away from her.
He says it can completely destroy a human being, and he talks about how it almost destroyed him. And I mean, goddamn, look at the guy.
And everyone, telling me they love me, and just turn their back on you in a second.
You can tell just looking at him that it really hasn't been too easy. And that brings us to today. Usher just wrapped a 100-show Las Vegas residency at Park MGM. And he recently announced that he's starting another record label with L.A. Reid, the guy who originally signed him to his very first deal in the very first place. Oh, and he'll be headlining the Super Bowl this year, apparently. I don't really know what Usher went through, what he knows, what he doesn't know, what tragedies, what traumas he may have endured, but I don't think that it was all rainbows and butterflies, I could say that. One thing is for certain, Usher does not want his kids in the industry, and there is a lot of proof of this.
Is there any young talent that you have probably discouraged from getting in the music business because of it's not just about the music?
Probably my own children someday.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, this music business can be very taxing.
You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
Is it, do you think it's going to be tougher for you to find professional peace or personal peace?
I mean, I think I'll be good across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a calm guy, man. I don't really let too much upset me, man.
You always are smiling.
I got a lot to smile about.
You do have a lot to smile about.
Have you seen my kids, man?
I haven't. You keep them very well hidden. I haven't.
And even if he had, he's not going to admit it now. He's like, no pictures, nothing.
No, I know.
Now, there's a whole bunch of more stuff about Usher I could have gotten into. There's a lot of stuff that I did have to leave out because, like I said in the last video, if I tried to put all of the stuff that I have found into one video, it would be 9 hours long and probably your head would explode and probably you wouldn't even be able to take it all in at once. So there's a lot more to talk about Usher.
To the man in the bathhouse in Koreatown?
But I think really the standout here is it kind of fits into this model of the formula that I've been kind of discovering. And again, don't take my word for it. I'll put out a bunch of videos and you can make your own mind up. It's all public information that I'm sourcing from. But one thing that does stand out is that Usher, strictly speaking, kind of tried to literally run away from this industry. He was in his little high school, don't do drugs band. He was doing somersaults in the high school gym and he was just fine with it. His mom wanted to, sorry to say it, but it seems like she wanted to cash in on her son's talent. She was a choir director. She kind of was a little bit of a talent scout of her own. And it does sound like Usher had it a little bit better than some other folks in the industry because he did have a mom who kind of did care about him and stuff like that. But at the same time, the child was running away. So he didn't have to leave Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I mean, it's just very interesting. He was literally running away and then he ended up being Usher. But I don't know, he might not feel the same about it. And remember how I told y'all earlier in this story about how Usher and Scooter Braun kind of both collaborated together to launch not only Justin Bieber as a star, but they kind of had their own label that they formed up just to launch Justin Bieber? There was a little bit of a bidding war there, and Scooter and Usher were not the only people who were interested in taking a stab at the young Biebs. pun intended. There was one other person in the bidding who thought they'd take a stab at managing the young Beebs, and he's got a very interesting come-up origin story of his very own.
And coming shortly.
That's all I really have for today. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Love you, mean it, bye.
She just turned 24.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody's having a birthday this week. So you had a big birthday bash, I hear, huh?
Actually, it's past October the 14th. Yeah,
October 14th,
I had a birthday masquerade.
Masquerade?
The man, Diddy, and Cassie wore masquerade masks and ingested illicit substances.
They wore masquerade masks and ingested.
Did everybody come in costume with a mask?
A lot of people did. Matter of fact, Jamie Foxx, like the pumpkin head. It was a lot of fun.